Hello and welcome to the Unsung Sport Podcast, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the sports you love. Tonight I'm joined by Guy Branston, who has played over 400 professional matches before becoming a coach, a head of operations, a recruitment manager, a loan manager, before setting up his own football agency. Guy, you're an incredibly busy man. I do thank you for your time. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking me to come on.
No problem. So look, you've got such a varied background, and I'm really interested in the work that you've done as kind of a loan manager and obviously as a football agent, because obviously we are all about the off the field. But with 400 games under your belt, I mean that's an incredible achievement in itself. I mean, what was that like? Just being a player for that long?
Yeah, you probably missed out another 100 or so, but I don't mind that because it was probably two of me loan moves or three of me loan moves. But where you get to that level in, well, I mean, we're talking about off the pitch, I suppose, off the arena's best bits. But I think the consistency that I've got, the resilience I've got, the mentality behind that I've got, the habitual side that I've got, has all come from that football side, that 400, 500 games that I played, that reserve amount of games that I played, that B-side team games I played, that under 21 games I played just to keep going physically is an unbelievable resilience. It's so easy to stop, and some days I push myself to the brink of madness in a fun way, and I push myself to the brink of madness in a really negative way because I just wanted to get where I could get with the ability that I had.
Yeah, and obviously you're known as a no nonsense defender, and you've had plenty of battles. Just to get here tonight was a battle. I know you battled through the storm, so appreciate that. Did you ever want to take that kind of mentality into management? That's one of the things I see you haven't got. Did you ever fancy being a manager?
No one's ever really asked me to be a manager. So I always, after football, envisioned that I'd run a football club. I've always been around players and all my life and love working with players on and off the pitch. I think people who have worked with me realise, as long as we're all in this together and I buy into you, you buy into me, I'm usually by your side, very loyal. My career will show that I'm loyal to myself, which I am, and I will always be supportive of managers who have been loyal to me, and I've shown that as well in various instances, and that can be a short period of time as a loan where I've left because managers have left within that loan period, and stayed with managers who have appreciated me and I've appreciated them. So I think that's where a lot of the stuff comes from within to get to the stage I'm at now, and I think the big thing for me off this is I've still got loads of years left. Like I've done 10 years already as an ex-player. I've done 10 years of unbelievable learning experiences and tried different things and had no fear about trying different things. I think I'm in an arena where I'm really good at it, which has been difficult to find because things haven't clicked into certain processes. And managing an agency, to managing a business, to managing a football club, inevitably it's about people, isn't it? And no one's ever asked me to be a manager of a football club, so I've never had that opportunity to actually go and do it.
It's interesting you say that actually, because like in terms of following, having that loyalty to a manager, because I spoke to Lee Fowler earlier this week, who's currently manager of Flint Town and was at Nuneaton actually just a couple of years after you were there, and he was saying the same. Like it's.
But no, I played against Lee, and I played numerous times against Lee growing up, and know he's a good guy, know he's a good coach, know he's got good possibilities, but people don't necessarily see you in the building to ask you to manage, and people don't necessarily see you as a manager because they have their own biases or their own misunderstandings of football.
And talking to managers, who was the best manager you played under?
The shining light of all of it was quite simple. It was, I'd say, Martin O'Neill, because of what success he brought to Leicester. The guys that he had around him were, some would say, misfits in the modern game, but unbelievable pros in that era. So, you had Robbie Savage, Neil Lennon, Matt Elliott, Jerry Taggart, Steve Walsh. Managers of today couldn't cope with one of them, let alone 20 of them. Ian Marshall was unbelievable to manage. And this is what I'm saying about people. Like, managing people is half the battle. And I think that if the amount of people I've dealt with over the past have put me in a really good position to deal with lots of different types of people and not hold on to situations. And Martin O'Neill was unbelievable about talking to you like you're a king 1 minute and absolutely coming after you the next.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I do enjoy listening to him on Talk Sport. I know he's on there regular, so he's a really good manager to listen.
It's fantastic.
And as a kind of player, I mean, I only ever played at a very poor level. I never played any good. But my kind of hero growing up was Julian. I was a defender as well, so Julian Dix was kind of my hero, being a West Ham fan. Who did you look up to? Who was that player for you that you wanted to be like?
I was always, as a kid, I was always either a centre back or a centre forward. And I wouldn't say I was a good centre forward, but I just didn't mind the old fashionedness of putting my body about and smashing into people and getting my shots off. Don't know where they went, but they went near the goal. And the centre back element, the fighting element, the physicality of it, and the ruthlessness of it gave me a lot of early plaudits. So I dealt with that, and my hero was probably Steve Walsh at Leicester, who I ended up, inevitably working with and playing with at 16, which was unbelievable. But he was such a good guy off the pitch and on the pitch that he didn't even seem like a hero when you worked with him because he was so down to earth. And he was just a big daft lump who that's what he gave off. But really, he was really, really cool, really relaxed, really nice guy who you wanted to knock about with. And he gave it the old just a centre back, but really he knew what he was doing every 5 seconds when he was terrorising centre forwards.
Yeah, great player, great player. And in terms of your time in football, what was the kind of funniest football memory?
Funniest probably memory for me was after the Stoke game. I stole the team bus for a bit of banter with the lads on it, waiting for the driver because we've been waiting so long. But back then, the manager and the staff would go in to have a drink with the manager. And Ronnie Moore loved to drink with the lads and the staff, and go and fill his boots up in the lounge after the game with the other manager, and we'd be there 45 minutes to an hour waiting for Ronnie Moore and the lads, the staff. And like, we've just played the game, we've just done incredibly well for him, we've just done all the things he's asked of us all week. Some of us want to go home, and some of the lads would be like, "Go on, Brano, go on, let's go after him, go and beat the horn, go and get." I said, "You know what? Fuck beeping the horn. I'm just going to steal the team bus." So of course I've started reversing the team bus out of the Stoke Stadium, and the driver was at the back getting some food ready because he knew he had another 45 minutes before the gaffer came out of the stadium. And I thought, fuck this, come on, I'm going to drive the bus. So I reversed it out, and then the bus driver ran forward, and then so I slammed on the brakes, and he went into the windscreen, and then he knocked himself out. He's absolutely sparkling off the trigger brakes.
Is it one of those things now that that kind of banter and humour? Do you think that's gone a bit in the modern game? Is it? I wouldn't say it's more professional, but is just everybody just more media trained and aware of things now because there's so many cameras about?
There's a lot, yeah, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more fear in it, I suppose. Shorter contracts, more cannon fodder players. Like, there's lots of young lads within the system, within the teams to, probably breed more recruitment policies or breed more coaching staff. There's more younger coaching staff who are fresh out of university that have never been around footballers before, but given this title, and then they're wondering why they're making mistakes with the sports science or the nutrition or the analytical data, or like, I'm bamboozled by who gets in control of certain departments of football clubs now, and then you look at it and go, Jesus, like, where's the manager? And you look at the manager, and he's not incredibly young. He's like got a different title, so he can't say this to this person or that person. So there's all these things that naturally I look at and see the game change, but I also look at loads of positives as well around it. And I think that, when you're talking about football, it's getting better from the past, learning from their mistakes, and it's getting better as we move forward in this new modern game, which I particularly really enjoy to see and watch.
Excellent, thanks. We'll kind of move on from your playing times. I'm sure there's a lot more stories we can go into. But in terms of yourself, when did you actually realise that you had to retire? What was your transition like into kind of non-playing after so long in football?
I think you start realising your body's not holding up. I class myself as pretty fit. I've kept myself a good standard of fitness level. And even when I was into my 30s, I was eating right, living right, don't particularly drink anyway. Not something I'm a big fan of. I sit there and scratch my head at people who have high body fats, who eat lots of sugar, who can't keep their body fat down. And remember signing for Bradford, and we had a fitness coach, and he was questioning me as a footballer at 33, I think I was at the time, and I was shredded, I was ripped as anything, right? And he's talking about my body fat being too high and things like that. He's like, and I ended up like losing my shit with him, and I felt like like he was just doing it because they wanted me out the club, and like I was just basically saying, stop fucking inventing things. Do you know what I mean? Like you can't say this looks a mess, and I wasn't being wrong. I wasn't lying to him, but he was questioning like 1 kilo off and you'll get fined. I'm like, I won't pay the fine. Like, shut up. You're a fucking fitness coach. You're not the manager or the chairman. And I was just thinking to myself, you know what? Like, I'm getting a bit sick to death of the political side of the game as well. And that was 33, 34. I'd had so many moves. My missus was pregnant. And I had managers trying to like make me run in the afternoons because they didn't want me at the football club for no apparent reason. And like run in the afternoons, like fine, like no problem. I'll run in the afternoons. I'll run all day. Any more running, no problem. And it was more that was getting to me than the physicality, because I like to scrap on the pitch. I like to work hard on the off the pitch. I like to train, and the biggest thing for me, 34, 35, really damaged my ankle on an away trip to Preston, snapped all my tendon, and couldn't get it right. Couldn't get it right within the season. And every time I played, I was uncomfortable, really sore, constantly taking bruising, constantly taking tablets, and still wasn't right. The physios wouldn't, the level I was at, it wouldn't scan me. And I just couldn't get my ankle right. And I said, right, you know what? You're not going to scan me. If you're not going to do things right by me, I've got to look after me, because I'm getting down about it. It's really starting to affect me. I've got no contract at the end of the season. I've got 2 kids. And I'd already started to look at the transition, already started to look at the exit strategy. I knew I had my pension coming up at 35. I knew I had my business in the background, which was a recruitment business, a scouting business, a promotional business, an agency business. I didn't even know what it was at the time. I just had an idea. And I started to load that up. And literally, when I say load it up, it was an online site for players to get noticed and get promoted. And I didn't know which I was going down, the agency route at the time. I didn't know I was going down the recruitment route at the time. All I knew, I was watching clips of players and knew I could see a player, in my opinion, and knew what sort of level he could play at. So I started researching different levels and different talents and different players off the website, and going watching more games. And then John Sheridan said to me, because he's a great guy, he said, look, you got a knack of this. Like, why don't you scout for us whilst you're injured? So I did reports on players. I did, I'd say, an analytical data without even realising what it was. Started working out what the corners looked like, and no one had ever shown me, and just thoroughly enjoyed the detail. And it took my mind off not playing. So when I got an option of going into Exeter, when I retired, I took the first job, which was Exeter, as a coach with the kids, and started to do that. But I'd already done badges before. I'd already done nutritional courses, sports psychology courses on the bus. I knew we were coming. I wasn't going to get caught out at the end of it. Do you know what I mean? And 35 was a pivotal point, because of, in a player's career, you can take a pension at 35. In my era, you now got to wait till you're 55. So I knew I could take a bit of money and sit back and then start making decisions on my money.
Yeah, that's interesting. Didn't realise that about the pensions. And do you think there's quite a few players there that didn't really plan ahead, or they got to that point where, as you say, the body gives up, and by that point it's too late because you'd already done your badges and probably had that network.
Yeah, I think that the shock end of the transition, or I wouldn't call it a transition. Then I think it's just a fucking stab because it hurts. It's an amazing feeling of loneliness. For me, it was for me. It was an amazing feeling of detachment. I put it down to one of the first Superman films I ever watched, of him going to the cave and coming out not a superhero anymore, and no one really caring. And it was like, and then he gets beat up in the bar because he's not at it anymore as a superhero by some random guy over a burger, and he puts his glasses up like that, and the guy just fills him in, and he's like, "Whoa, how did that hurt? That really hurts, that punch." And that's kind of how I seen it. And I mean, people like you giggling, and I was giggling at the time about how I see it now, but I genuinely felt like fuck me, I've gone from 14, 15, 16,000 people on a Saturday afternoon cheering if I play bad, cheering if I play good. People asking me my name, asking me my sign, just admiration, and people being nice. And then you go from it and like they literally like don't care. They walk past you in the street like, "Oh, I used to play this," or "Do you used to do that?" And the biggest thing for me, like transitioning out to that sort of new job level, was I put everything in motion. It took me a hell of a long time to get any sort of praise for what you do, and not for my ego, but just to be like feel like I'm being successful, and I genuinely starting to feel after 10 years of grafting my nuts off that I'm getting somewhere finally. You know.
Yeah, it's really interesting and an honest view there. And again, I was speaking to the head of medicine and sports science at Colchester United recently. I think it was one of your old clubs, but I was asking him as well around wellness, and that aftercare. And again, I know people do talk about that side of it a lot more now, but back in the day, was it just like your contract was ended and pretty much that's it? You're out of the club.
That's it, mate. Like, I never had anybody ring me from the PFA other than about my pension because I chased them on it. I was then owed a load more money with my pension. I had to chase them on that. I haven't had, other than if I've made a call to PFA, I've never had any conversation with it about my transition, my way out of the game. If anything, I was trying to get them involved in my app, my website, because my app and my website was all about players getting more opportunities, and they asked me to sponsor them commercially and pay a load of my pension money into their commercial pot and sponsor their commercial element of their business, which is the PFA. So I could then use their advertisement company to advertise my system to footballers who are out of work, which was fucking mind-boggling. And then I did all my own advertisement, did all my own, made loads of mistakes. You know, no one's going to help you. You know, and that's my so-called football union that I paid into and supported, and told lads to go and meet their online rep and their reps and make sure you use the facilities because they're great guys. But I said all them things to people, and I thought, you know what, I don't really believe these things anymore because I'm not seeing anything from them. So I built my network, which was strong for me. I did everything I had to do for me in regards to my family and obviously ultimately my children, and realize along the way that your so-called friends do drop off very quickly, and you end up really in a small knit community that you've curated from being good to certain people consistently over time, and the so-called friends and family that liked you as a footballer starting to drop off as well.
Yeah, that's interesting as well because yeah, you're right. I totally get it. Like the fact that you've just had all these people, I guess, shouting good and bad things at you, and yeah, it's just complete switch really. And I know, and again, after you sort of finished playing, you went on then to become a loan. So you started off as in the academy at Leicester, and then worked up to becoming a loan manager. Was that your journey there?
Yeah, so I mean, the total amount of jobs I had was Exeter, Notts County as a scout, then chief scout, then head of recruitment. I went straight out of that into Nuneaton. I then became an agent for just to have a little look at it, and then literally instantly got a job offer for Chesterfield. I was in there for 3 or 4 months, and that was head of recruitment, then manager, just as an interim. And then I went into Leicester as the under 16s assistant after managing Chesterfield, just to get some more coaching time under my belt. And I'd already done previously at 28. I'd coached abroad and doing my B license. I worked with Leicester City, so I got some really good relationships at Leicester, and they're really good people to me, and I rave about them. And they've got an excellent academy staff, an excellent football club. So I went back there and asked, "Look, I said, look, is there any coaching work going? Because I want to still work." And I'd obviously been paid off by Chesterfield, and that was fantastic to have that breathing space. But we had things going on in my house. We just took on a new house because we got a new job, and we had bills to pay. We don't earn massive money, so it's my missus was off work at the time because of my mum had died. So all these things were affecting me and my family. So I had to then take responsibility, like I always do, and try and earn the money for the family, which I've always done. So I took the opportunity to work with Leicester, and Leicester gave me an opportunity to work, and I ended up going through the ranks with them, and they said, "Look, coach if you want to, carry on coaching if you want to, but there's an opportunity here of a full-time role, which is a loans manager." And I had 4.5 years of doing that, which was for me fantastic. Loved it. Great opportunity to work with some of the lads, funny enough, that I coached when they were 12 in my original time at Leicester.
Were you at Leicester when they won the Prem, by the way?
No, that was the season after. I was at Leicester for their demise. I caused the demise.
As soon as you went, they rocketed. You mean?
No, I'm only joking. I'm only joking. Yeah, no, no, no. Listen, they were already on the high. I was already obviously a Leicester fan through and through as a kid because I grew up in Leicester, and just working for the club is a great honour, and it's a great honour that, like I said, I know some of the main men there and main women there, and it's an honour to have been involved in that and have that on my CV.
Yeah. And can you kind of talk me through the role of a loan manager? Because again, I think it's one of those roles that the average football fan doesn't really understand.
You make the role your own. You make the role into what the club wants. It depends what the club's asking of you. I mean, we had, in my opinion, an opportunity to open up a department that's never really opened up properly. I moved into a system and a drop box that didn't really have any sort of reports in there about players going out on loan. And they asked me to manage it because of my management background, and I set up a really busy week with watching players, understanding what they're doing in every walk of recruitment within it. So I knew if they were going out on loan, I knew if they were going to have an option of playing, I knew if they were going to play, I'd be there. I knew if I didn't catch them live, I'd watch them on site online, and I'd make sure I just made sure the players felt that someone was on their side from the football club, regardless if it was going good or bad. I wasn't interested if the player wasn't hitting the highs that the club wants, because it's more about the player's experience for me when he went out on loan, and how he was feeling like he was, and was it being reported back to the club? That was important to me. Was I reporting enough back to the club about his performances, good or bad? And so I made sure that everybody had time spent on them in a really individual way to cater to the players' needs. And I think I did that, and I was really proud of that time as a loans manager. The amount of hours I put into that system, I hope that people appreciate the time I spent with them, and the time I set out to spend with some of the names I could drop if I wanted to. But I think there's some great periods of time there where I've been really successful off the back of just caring. just blatantly caring about a player and about an individual and about a person, because I don't think you should really necessarily need 3 or 4 members of staff just to care about a player at your football club. It should be run and organised and understood by somebody who's got the skill sets to do all sorts of 3 or 4 different jobs. And it would save you a fortune if you let people manage themselves in the correct manner. I think we overstaff football clubs. I think we overpopulate people to fit other people's needs and other people's egos. And I think we follow other people's trends because they look semi-successful because of good PR and networking.
Is it the loan manager's job to decide where somebody goes?
No, I don't think it is. In my opinion, I think it's a team. I think it's a multidisciplined team. I think you should hear people's opinions, but I think that the director of football, if there's one at the football club, or sporting director, should have a real big say. But I believed I was trusted, and I believe I was supported to go and find great opportunities for these lads, regardless of what their agent said, regardless of what the staff say. I was going to deliver, hopefully, opportunities for these players by giving them choices, and then they could go away and think about it and learn from mistakes by choosing certain opportunities. But also, we've got to protect these players from difficult situations that their agent can put them in, club staff can put them in. Picking the phone up to a friend saying that so and so is allowed to go out on loan, and then all of a sudden I've got a manager ringing me up saying I want that player, and they've done no research into him. We made sure we covered the players' backs because we're thinking about the player. So when you start to really whittle down the loan opportunities for a player, it ain't as big as you think, even if you're talking about Cat 1 player. Once you've whittled down the options and it fits every criteria you're looking for to get out of this loan, then you have to really start nitpicking on why you're making that decision for the player. And the player's got to trust you that these 2 options have come up because you've got ability, but you've also got everything set up for success at this loan if you choose these 2 rather than entertaining the 4 that you might have.
And what makes a good loan player, and what if a player becomes unhappy? What's the kind of protocol then?
A good loan player, I think, is just a person that's willing to take on an experience for the sake of his career. That could be a move to another club for exposure with another club for the sake of another contract with us or with someone else. I mean, players are all put into different categories because they're all at different levels within their period of time at the football club. And then, for me, then it's about the success of the story that's painted. I think the success could be he's learned a lot from that process, he's learned a lot from that opportunity, and he's learned a lot from the various dynamics around the loan. But then I think what your success. Remind me the last little bit there.
Just in terms of if somebody's if somebody goes to a club and they're unhappy, so if they're not getting the game time they were potentially spoken about.
Yeah, yeah. So sorry, I lost my thread there. So the success is important, but if it goes wrong, what has he learned? Where is he at with it? Why has it gone wrong? And if it goes wrong, then we can always bring back the player within the football club to speak to him, to discuss with him, which I did. Which I had them conversations with players that were difficult because I'll be honest with you, like if the loan goes wrong, there's probably a reason. It's not prepared before, and the idea around it isn't the right ideas before he even goes out on loan.
Yeah, so that research or due diligence wasn't done up front. And in terms, just in terms of that again with a Cat 1 player, so how does it work in terms of finances? Is it the for example, would a Leicester still pay the wages, or is that covered by the other club, or is that just dependent deal by deal?
It's a negotiation. It's a negotiation of hunger and desire from the club because the club I was always under the understanding that when I came into that position that I would be negotiations and involved in that high end stuff. But the director of football took that out of my hands, which again I understood and supported, because first things first, it's his name on the tin within the football club's departments, and he has to make sure every deal's structured right for the football club's sake. But clubs take the mick. Like lower league clubs think that it's a God-given right to have a player from a Cat One club, and they're doing them a massive favour when you're giving them millions of pounds worth of talent. Like, pay your bills. Like, pay your bills for the right reason, because if you've got an option of dealing with Leicester City, you're dealing with a brand that's got a consistency of putting good loan players out there into the environment. They have a really high value and a real high quality. So take the opportunity to pay for the player, take the player, start winning football matches with him. And this is where I think clubs think, well, we'll just take a body out of a Cat 1 club and we won't play him because he ain't cost us anything, and it looks good on the team sheet that we've got a Chelsea lad on the bench, and it boosts the other lads' culture and attitude. Like, they use the players in a negative stance. And I've seen clubs suffer from it, and I've seen managers think that they're above the situation, and even when they used to speak to me, it's like, "Oh, do us a favour with the finances, Brano," and I'm like, "Mate, if you can't afford him, you shouldn't be in the race. Like, don't go to Harrods if you need to shop at Primark."
Fair enough. And in terms of like, again, moving on from the loan to obviously you're now a football agent, and again, this is probably another role that's very misunderstood in football, because you just see the huge figures that and the huge chunk of money that the very the Ronaldo agents, I can't remember his name's gone out of my head now, but the big super agents take. And also you hear the other end, Mendes, there's the one, thank you. And the other end, you just hear about the dodgy ones that basically just have to take an exam and then they'll go and try and be sketchy and tap up players. So I think that's the only time you ever really hear of football agents, but the actual reality of it, what does that look like?
Again, it's what sort of work you want to put in, who do you want to be seen as, what do you want to achieve, how do you want to feel? I want to feel that I'm supporting people. I want to feel that I'm making money. I want to feel that I'm being successful with what I'm doing around my players, and I want my players to be part of that. So for me, it's just constant ecosystem where we're all winning. And if the lad's winning, he's getting my support, my knowledge, my background, my work rate, my sitting in the car for 3 hours to go to the match to watch him, to then meet his parents, to then be around his family, his girlfriend, to then supporting him when he's had a shit game, a good game, a bad game, a brilliant game, an inconsistent form pattern, a really consistent form pattern. Then I'm moving him. I want to be on that journey with him. I've had that journey, and it was fantastic for me. And I buzz off it. Like, so if I can be on other players' journeys on a consistent basis every so often, within the windows, outside the windows, I'm still involved in football, which is an absolute honour, an absolute privilege, and to me, it's not even working like properly. It's I used to work on a market as a kid. I used to graft my nuts off at various stupid jobs at Little Chef, and I used to do paper rounds and do various jobs as a kid just to earn money. I see my mum, bringing home boxes of plastic like joints for piping, and we had to go through them as a kid to earn extra money for the house, like, and figuring out which one's defective, which one isn't, and we'd sit there for hours doing it together just to earn some more money for the house. Like, that's grafting. That's work. This is playing football manager, working around football in the industry, having a great time being a footballer, having a great time being an agent, having a great time being a staff member. Like, it's not life and death like my missus has to do in the COVID ward, or my missus has to do around the diabetes, who are struggling for their sicknesses that they've got. And I'm in a privileged position, and I'll always remember that. Like, and I want to be part of that for a long period of time, and that's why I work hard at it. That's my why.
And I guess that in terms of what's obviously you've had that background in football, so you've been a player. So again, you've been there. I'm assuming you've had your own agent. Did you have one agent, many agents? How did it work for yourself?
No. I had two agents. Did a lot of deals myself. I enjoyed the banter with the manager. I enjoyed asking for 50 quid more. You know, wherever I stood, I kind of spoke with my agent at the time, who was Lee Philpott. I'd in and out of these different calls with agencies, but it only really blew up probably after the youth academy level started to really blow up. So I'd say 2005, I started to see more and more agents, more and more people bouncing about. 2007, when I started coaching, 2008, when I started coaching, I started seeing more agents around the so-called youth level. And then really, like, when I started to finish, I started listening to some of the young lads talking about their agent, and I'm going, "You're in League Two. Right? What do you need an agent for?" And then I started hearing the figures that the agents were being paid and the figures that the managers were using, the other agent, like loads of stories started to come out, which I found really intriguing. And it was just something that intrigued me because I'd done a lot of good work with my agent at the time, and then I ended up working with him and really enjoyed my period of time with him. We speak weekly still to this day.
You'd be surprised that how far down the pyramid agents do pop up. I think
I can't believe it that the non-league setups when I was at Nuneaton, we had agents daily in the Conference North and South. But when you're talking about when I played in the Conference North after I left Peterborough because of a technical discrepancy, I went into Peterborough on 1,500 quid a week. Massive dough. 2009, and I'm in the Conference North on silly money till the end of the season, like silly money. And I'm thinking, and I was don't get me wrong, like I deserved it because I was a football league player playing in the Conference North. They had to pay me to get there, right? But when I'm talking about massive dough, like some of the lads I ended up playing with as a player, Ron Bundles, who we played against, Ron Bundles, but like you get paid the right money because you're either good or bad. But agents like hanging around certain situations for 1,000 quid, 500 quid, like wow.
yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. And how do you or how does any agent get players to sign for them? Like, is it just going to scouting? Is it the network? Is it your own marketing? How does that work?
It's a mixture. Yeah, it's a mixture of various different things. Your network, your friendship groups, your friends in the game, your so-called friends in the game, because there's lots of shysters in the game that want your information but don't ever pay you for it, and don't ever want to pay you for all the work you've done for them. And so there's loads of stuff that you need to have a real thick skin from to then be able to then promote to the parent that you can help them, and promote to the player that you can help them. And I believe that I find players from my background. I find players from my network. I look for certain types of players that I want to represent, and I drop on things. And I'm not a big fan of randomly calling people up. I'm a big fan of building relationships first, and then going from there with it, and making sure people respect that I've got a good name in the game, and I'm going to make sure I'm bringing something to your party. Make sure you bring something to my party as well, because I don't like people coming to a party with no beer or no salad or no fruit or veg or whatever you bring into when you come into a nice house. Make sure you bring a bottle of wine at least.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, it's rude, isn't it? It's like be part of the party. You bring your performances. I'll do the rest of the stuff off the pitch. And it's like even at work, like I've turned up to work today to work. Like, just turn up and work and see where we go with it. And be positive, because it's a great environment to be around football. And if you can be in a situation where the club's positive and the vast majority of people are positive, I've only ever seen it go one way.
And when you've signed a player, then so if you've got player or agents have players, what's the sort of process for marketing? Because again, it's strange. I say, even in very low leagues where you just get sent these YouTube clips of players, but it's only their best bits. And like my 11-year-old son could look like Messi if I edited it well enough. So how worthy are those kind of clips, and how do you do it?
Me personally, I go off the situation you're in. I like the idea of players promoting themselves. Their ability should be promoting them. I also think that if you over promote, you undersell, and you literally end up killing the kid off because you promised this and it hasn't really materialised because he just isn't that. So hence them video clips. If the managers doesn't know him, then again there's a big question to be asked. So why are you trying to put him into them sorts of clubs? And I always want my players to be wanted, so I make sure that I can have a good conversation with these guys first to make sure we can get a real clear picture of what sort of types of players they're looking for, so then I can promote my player in that position. And you imagine if you're running around in the window, there's 4,000 agents ringing up about one position.
With going back, I remember, I can't remember what it's called, but I remember a documentary with Barry Fry, and he's negotiating with an agent. I don't know if you've ever seen that clip. I mean, it's hilarious.
That was me. I'm negotiated with him 3 times. Um, He'd ring me up out the blue, like when we were doing negotiations, and I love him. He's a great guy. I buzz off him. We're gonna have a coffee with him tomorrow at the game. I'm invited. I get invited to the games all the time. I love going there as a guest, and I'm going tomorrow. So I spend a lot of time with Barry. I speak to him. I take his insights. But honestly, this guy, we had so much fun negotiating together. There were so many good stories and so many positive times. But you've got to take him as what he is. He's a fun person. He wants to enjoy himself on a daily basis. It can go a bit way, but he's an absolute killer negotiator. He will strip you down wherever you've come from. And don't get me wrong, if you want to come with your Harvard Business School background, he'll tear you to shreds, mate. And you'll have coming out the negotiation room with no suit on.
Yeah, I used to. I lived close to Southend growing up, so I used to go to Roots Hall when he was manager there, and he was brilliant then. So
Well, listen, I can imagine some of the stuff he was doing back then was borderline, but I can also imagine that he kept, was highly successful with it because people wanted to play for him as a manager, and people wanted to work for him because of his support mechanisms around the club. I would not say a bad word about him, mate. He's a fantastic person, and I mean that in a Harry Redknapp way. Fantastic player. He's a really, really, really top bloke to work with.
brilliant. Yeah, I think it's one of those characters that there's not as many of them around, and you talk about Harry and the Blackpool Ollie Blackpool manager. There's a few that just are very out.
Oh, yeah. Ian Holloway. Ian Holloway. But they're all different types again. Yeah, different types of people for different reasons. They've all got a story to tell, but they bring people together. They make people feel welcome. They make people feel wanted, and it's about the person. It's about the individual. It's about their story. And this is, like I said to you, when you're talking about management, I think culture, positive culture, players that want to come to work. If it's evident, if you want to come to work, you're going to work harder. If you don't want to be at work, you ain't going to work hard. So make the culture really easy to see and really simple to take on board, in my opinion, what it's going to be about, and take it on board as everybody buys into it. And if you don't want to come into work, you don't want to come into a meeting, don't come into a meeting. If it's not something you want to be doing, don't do it, because you're not going to give 100%. And I think if you build a culture that everyone agrees on, lads will stick to it as well, or people will stick to it within the business. I mean, I walked into a management situation where I was managing Chesterfield, and I brought up that we've got a game Tuesday, let's come in on Sunday, to the staff. And we've been struggling, we've been losing. been losing a lot of games, and one of the biggest reasons, in my opinion, was the recovery levels of some of these lads and the fitness levels of some of these lads was down. So I said, well, we need to get the lads who haven't played up to speed on the Sunday, bring the other lads in to recover, and we'll all have a social and we'll all get on and we'll have a nice lunch after and we'll all buy into each other, because there's a lot of mismanaged groups. And the staff at the time, it was the previous staff, Sunday. I went, yeah, Sunday. 2 days before a game, we're not really going to train tomorrow because Monday's a day before a game. So you're really going to only have Sunday to train the lads who might play on the Tuesday, because I'm going to change the team. Can't come in Sunday. Oh, I can't come in Sunday too. Oh, I can't come in Sunday too. I'm like, oh, okay. So if we're the staff and we're buying into each other and we want to get this job as the management, or we want to get this job when the new manager comes in, or you want to stay in a job, wouldn't you think it was a good idea as a group that we then show the players that we've got this togetherness, that we're going to go and work Sunday and we're all going to be in Sunday with the players? Or do you want to miss a Sunday because it's not right by your family life? I think I missed I missed the day. Well, fine, there's no problem at all though. So when I sectioned certain players off and certain staff members off, they were like, well, that felt harsh. I was like, well, we're all in this together from day one. Like, if we're successful, you're going to be with me. If I'm not successful, I won't be here. But I think that's the right culture to breed. And like I said to you, make the place fun, make the place positive, make the place everything you all need to do to go in the right direction. That's usually forward, not backwards.
I noticed there's a lot of companies out there that's selling. There's a lot of trial companies. There's a lot of companies selling trials to players. I'm not sure how good some of them are. I'll be honest. What are your kind of thoughts on them? Do you come across them a lot? Is there any that you attend?
I was, when I was setting up my business in regards to All About Ballers, I worked with a lot of trial opportunities and a lot of dream sellers, as you say. I think there's a place for them to give a certain amount of opportunities to a certain type of player, but realistically, if you're already at that level at a certain age, then it's not really a market that you want to be going down, because it's very much the few and far between that get through the system and go on with it. But there is companies out there that are doing good. And I think that if there was a company out there that I believed in, that the staff behind it and the cost behind it, then I would point players in the direction. Inevitably, the American companies that set up these scholarship companies that sell players the dream of going to the scholarships in America, they're trial companies. They're other trial companies, and these are the other expensive trials that are out there. And anything that you need to do to get somewhere where you want to get to, go down these trial companies. It's about your career. It's not about everyone else's thoughts on it. It's about, they've put a thing in place to help these players. If you want to spend £1,000 on a trial, I know I wouldn't be. I'd be working hard at my local level to try and get myself through the leagues. If you want to go to America and try and get a scholarship in front of a real big group of education providers, then would I spend £2,000 to get a full scholarship? Yeah, maybe I would.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And just coming back to, I know you've set up your own Game Changer football agency, so it'd be great to hear a bit about that. I guess I'm also keen to understand if you are just focusing on like certain locations. What's your geographical reach, age reach? Who do you look after?
No, again, I don't work for an agent. I don't work for an agency or an owner. I've got my own ideas and my own thoughts. I've got my own strategies. I've got my own processes. And one of my first ideas of working with this side of the game on my own was to make sure that I follow hot leads and follow leads that I think we can make money on as a business. And I put myself in situations where I think I can make money. And I try and develop them situations for my own reasons, my own my own stories, and some of the stories that I've already started to develop are, fantastic club acquisitions, working with club ownership groups, VCs, private equity companies to buy and sell football clubs, to then, do a deal to a lad moving to Gainsbury the following day. I'm not going to be sitting here restricting one of my lads moving because I'm too busy with something. It's going to be, you sign to the agency, you treat just as well as a VC, as well as you are if you sign to the agency and you're a young kid learning the ropes. So I don't want to be restricted to an agency format or an agency protocol, and that was a big reason why I made my own agency. And a big reason why I called it Game Changer was because it's a big turning point in my life that was changing my own mentality around where I was probably end up going, because I really believe that this role, if it's done properly, has a lot of facets to sporting director, director of football, and this is a transition from loans manager to sporting director, director of football. And I think when you're running your agency, you're managing, you're supporting staff, you're building, communication skills, improving communication within your departments. And I'm starting to get my own team together as I go into my agency, and I'm going to be running my own business, which for me is the only way really you can make consistently good money out of football, because I think that it's such an up and down environment. I think you can really be stripped back very quickly if things go wrong that probably aren't your fault if you work within a club. And I think that when you are involved at the top end of the tree, a football club, you can again have a real direction of what you can do at a football club, probably more so than a head coach or a member of staff. Maybe, where I see a lot of my friends constantly in and out of work. I don't see how, as a lower league footballer, I could ever go and manage Liverpool or Arsenal, because I haven't got a Premier League name or a Champions League name as a player, which is, to me, is ridiculous. But then just to manage or work at one of them top clubs, you have to have, either a German background or a Spanish background. So I haven't got one of them either. So it's the cold light of day reality that I seen, and Game Changer seemed to fit the name I had in my head, or the picture I had about what I wanted to build my logo of, with the new understanding of the data in the game, which is, for me, is massive. And I'm a big fan of tech, and I'm a big fan of sports tech, and the way AI is going to change football, and the way multi clubs are going to change football for the better, and all these things that are coming into it. So Game Changer was inevitably the name I wanted to choose to change into my agency, football agency.
Brilliant stuff. And if people wanted to get a hold of you, Guy, what's the best way to do that?
I think Instagram's always a good one, because you get to see who I am as well. And LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn, which it's Guy Branston. Instagram's Brano 1979, and my Game Changer is Game Changer UK. The website's gamechangerfootballagency.com, and loads of different options to get hold of me. But any business interests, please LinkedIn. It's a fantastic opportunity to see what my background's like, but also some of the good work I've been doing from a business point of view as well. So I'd love to hear other people's stories, and I'm really open to networking. So don't ever think that I wouldn't be interested in sharing ideas or sharing different networks.
Brilliant, Guy. You've shared a lot with us tonight, and I really appreciate that. And thank you very much for coming on. I look forward to seeing where Game Changer goes. I'm sure it'll be a massive success.
No, thanks for asking me. I'm always interested to hear why, and like you said at the start, it's because obviously you want to know about the backgrounds and the unsung sort of sports end of it. And I think where I'm at as a younger finisher of football, I've still got plenty of years to go, and I'm going to look into this more, and try and analyse it more, where I could probably help more people of giving them my time as well. But I think there's a lot of reasons why these sorts of transitional programs or transitional podcasts should be out there to help. And I think this will help a lot of people if they hear my story. And that's why I don't mind sharing it and giving it out, for, like you do as on your free time, because I think that if I can help any sportsman and woman, understanding that there's loads of difficulties out there, but if you keep positive and give time back to people, you always get refunded with some more extra love and care and well-being.
Brilliant, mate. Well, yeah, we really do appreciate your insights. It's been fantastic. So thank you very much for staying with us, and I'll speak to you soon.
Top man, mate. Thanks very much.